Imagine a predator so cunning, so ruthless, that he roamed free for years, leaving unimaginable devastation in his wake. A man who brought terror to the heart of South America, across Colombia, Ecuador, and Peru. This is the chilling story of Pedro López, a man who has come to be known as the monster of the Andes. His horrifying crimes defy comprehension, and his legacy still casts a shadow over the families of his victims and those who seek justice.
Reality Recital, where truth meets the unknown.
Pedro López's life began in tragedy and despair. Born in 1948 in Colombia, his early years were marked by poverty, violence, and neglect. He was the son of a sex worker, and his childhood was shaped by abuse. At the tender age of 8, Pedro fled from his home. Alone on the streets, he faced a harsh reality, where survival came at a steep price. He quickly learned to fend for himself in a world that showed him no mercy. These formative years planted the seeds of a darkness that would later spiral into something truly monstrous. By the time López reached his early 20s, his crimes had escalated. No longer content with petty theft, he became one of the most prolific serial killers in history. His preferred victims were young girls, often from impoverished communities. These were children whose families struggled daily just to put food on the table, making them vulnerable to a man who appeared kind and generous. López would lure his victims with small gifts, promises of food, or simple kindness. But what began with trust always ended in tragedy. Over the years, López traveled through Colombia, Ecuador, and Peru, hunting relentlessly. Marketplaces, bustling with activity, became his favored grounds. These crowded places provided him with the perfect cover to lure children away from their families. By the time anyone noticed a child was missing, it was already too late. López was eventually captured in Ecuador in 1980, and his confession stunned the world. He claimed to have murdered over 300 young girls. Investigators were initially skeptical. Could one man truly commit such atrocities? But when López led them to mass graves containing the remains of dozens of his victims, the horrifying truth became undeniable. His crimes were meticulously calculated, carried out without remorse, and documented in ways that sent chills down the spines of even the most seasoned investigators. But here's where the story takes an even darker turn. Despite the staggering magnitude of his crimes, López's punishment was shockingly light. He was sentenced to just 16 years in an Ecuadorian prison, the maximum penalty at the time. Even more outrageously, he served only 14 years before being released for what authorities described as good behavior. Good behavior. For a man who admitted to killing hundreds of innocent children, after his release in 1994, López was deported to Colombia, where he was briefly arrested again. But once again, the justice system failed. He was set free, and since then, his whereabouts have been a mystery. Authorities fear that he may still be alive and possibly continuing his reign of terror. For many, the thought of such a man walking free is almost too horrifying to contemplate. López's story leaves us with more questions than answers. How could someone so dangerous evade justice? Could there be even more victims that the world will never know about? And perhaps most chilling of all, how many more lives could he have claimed since his release? It's a mystery that continues to haunt the families of his victims and a stark reminder of the flaws in the systems meant to protect us. The story of Pedro López is more than a tale of a monster, it's a reminder of the fragility of justice. It's a story that forces us to confront the darkest corners of humanity and the terrifying truth that monsters sometimes walk among us, unseen and unstoppable. So, what do you think? Could Pedro López still be out there, blending into the shadows, waiting for his next victim? Or has his story come to an end? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. If this story chilled you to the bone, make sure to like, share, and subscribe for more unsettling tales of true crime and horror. Until next time, stay vigilant, stay aware, and stay safe.